Hello, and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. My name is Cecilia, and on behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you have joined us for our next live presentation from Nicola Mining. Please note, you can submit questions in the box to the left of the slides. You can also view a company's availability for one-on-one meetings through the Schedule Meetings tab found on the conference platform. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome Peter Espig, President, CEO, and Director of Nicola Mining, which trades on the OTCQB venture market under the symbol HUSIF and on the TSXV under the symbol NIM. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And first of all, I'd like to thank everyone who's participating and listening to this presentation. I hope that over the next 20 to 30 minutes that you'll come to the same conclusion that management, our employees, our advisors, and our board members have, that Nicola Mining really is a special, very strong assets. And the presentation format's probably going to be a little bit different than most presentations, in that most presentations, especially for junior mining companies, will look at the assets. They'll explain the assets and the potential. And our kind of the purpose of this presentation, which is entitled "The Year in Review," is really going to focus on, what have we executed on over the past 12 months? Because ultimately, it doesn't matter what assets you have if you're not able to execute on your milestones or your intentions. You're really never going to be able to maximize or extract the value of your assets. So, that said, before we begin the presentation, just a very quick overview of the company. So we have four key assets. Each asset in itself could be classified as a company maker, but together combined they create Nicola. They're synergistic, and they begin with the new Craigmont Copper Project, which the new Craigmont Copper Project is a fully permitted copper mine. It is the highest grade, large scale copper mine in the history of North America, and it sits adjacent to the largest copper mine in the history of Canada, being Highland Valley Copper. In addition to that, we have the Merritt Mill, which is located on the same site of the new Craigmont project. The Merritt Mill is a fully permitted gold and silver processing facility. We built the facility. We commenced construction in 2012 into 2013. It's a $30 million plus state-of-the-art facility that has a fully lined tailings facility, and it sits on top of freehold land that we own 100%. We also have the Treasure Mountain silver mine, which is a high-grade silver mine located approximately 90 minutes to the mill, and we own a 75% interest in the Dominion Creek property, which is a high-grade gold project that is located in central British Columbia. So why are we unique? First of all, we were a junior mining company with a market cap just under $60 million, but that's Canadian. But we have two full mine permits. We have a silver mine permit, and we have our copper mine permit. We also, in addition to that, have a mill permit, and are the only site permitted in British Columbia to accept third-party material. We are cash flow positive. Now, that's very important because, cash flow is king. And in times when there's a lot of volatility in the market or there's limited liquidity, cash flow is going to protect investors on the downside. That said, we have significant copper upside in the Craigmont project. And we are located in a safe jurisdiction, which, one of the knocks that British Columbia gets is that, it's very difficult to get permits in the province of British Columbia, and it's very expensive. And actually that's incorrect, because British Columbia is really on the global average, which is about 13 years to get permits, but it also takes tens of millions of dollars to get that. Nicola Mining is not here to raise capital. We're really here to tell the story about a very exciting company and an opportunity. With that said, let's look at what we've done over the past 12 months. At the end of 2022, the last 4 months, we completed a ZTEM survey over the entire project. Now, the ZTEM survey is an X-ray survey that allows the company to see deep within the property, and it targets metal anomalies or potential targets. We superimpose that over our electromagnetic survey and IP surveys, and the whole purpose of that is to get the more data that you have, the more accurate your drilling program is going to be. And the drilling program is the most expensive part of exploration. We completed the ZTEM survey and published the results. And in November of 2022, we received the Mayab. We'll talk more about the Mayab later in the presentation. The end of the year, we signed an MOU with HUSIF. Beginning of the year of 2023, we signed a mining and milling partnership agreement with HUSIF. We then completed a soil geochemistry over the WP zone, which we'll talk about our key targets in a bit. We completed a mill upgrade and we commenced milling operations. We then finalized and announced our exploration program for 2023, which was followed by signing an amending agreement with Blue Lagoon for processing of gold and silver material under a partnership. We commenced shipping of gold. We then announced that we had commenced work on a bulk sample permit with the Dominion Gold Project. And finally, we announced a $25 million letter of intent with Nitetsu Mining. So you can see that a lot has been done over the past 12 months, and it's quite balanced between operation and exploration. I'll begin with operation. So the bulk of this presentation will focus on operations associated with milling activity. That said, management really values cash flow. I mean, as I mentioned, cash flow is king, and cash flow allows the company to really execute on its goals and achieve its milestones. We have multiple revenue streams. We have in March of 2022, we went out and we signed a partnership, an agreement with LNSS, which is an affiliate of the Lower Nickel Indian Band, and we made finished and completed and received permitting for a rock quarry. That rock quarry was very significant in helping the reconstruction of the BC highway system and the hubs after the catastrophic floods that we had in 2020, November of 2021. We have an operating gravel pit under a partnership with First Nations, and we have a soil remediation business, and we've partnered with Trans Mountain. Again, all of this is the cash flow, provides stability, and allows us to execute on our exploration plans. Regarding the mill, we completed upgrades with us for Cisco, and we are also in negotiations with multiple parties right now with other milling opportunities. And a key highlight here, a key important point is we own the land freehold. So I don't know of any other mining company in British Columbia or Western Canada that actually owns the mill site freehold. In 2011, we paid $8 million for the land and then constructed the mill on top of that. So the way to conceptualize this, and I encourage everyone to look at our corporate presentation. If you go to the corporate presentation and you look at page 7, you'll see that the mill is centrally located, and there's a lot of gold projects surrounding us that have greater than 50,000 ounces and 7 grams per ton gold. Conceptualize it that this mill site is almost like the airport, and a lot of these projects are like airplanes, and we're the site that they're going to be destined to go to. We announced again that in December of 2022, we announced that we had signed an MOU with HUSIF, and then in January, we announced that we've signed a milling and profit share agreement. And then in July of 2023, we announced that we had commenced gold production, and not gold production, sorry, we announced that we started shipping gold material. That was followed by an announcement with Blue Lagoon Resources, where we signed an amending agreement. And with the amending agreement, that it goes up until March of 2027. And we're waiting for Blue Lagoon to get its permits. And under the agreement, then we would process the material for Blue Lagoon. We submitted a bulk sample permit for the Dominion Gold project. Now, the Dominion Gold project, and this is very important. So we own a 75% economic interest. That was submitted. We announced on August 3rd that we commenced work at the project. Now, to put this in perspective, and this is a perfect example of a project that really had to find a home. It's a very high grade project. This is public information that we put out, but we announced the initial grab samples of that project. We submitted 23 samples for assays. The average grade of those 23 samples was 61.3 grams gold and 173 grams silver per ton. We then went back and did chip sampling, a representative sampling of the vein that's outcropping at surface, and that came back with 61.39 grams gold and 320 grams silver. These are very prolific grades. Now, the reason why this isn't a mine, again, is because the mineralization doesn't justify building a mill, but it justifies doing a bulk sample and shipping the material to us, which now Nicola has a 75% economic interest. So again, that's a future cash flow stream that we hope to start production, or at least start the shipping to our site in 2024. Now, exploration milestones. Now, I mentioned in the exploration that we completed a ZTEM survey. So again, I would encourage individuals or groups listening to this presentation to go to page 14 of our corporate presentation. It's on our website, nicolamining.com, and you'll see the highlights on page 14 of that ZTEM survey. And the real big takeaway of that is that what you will see is that we are essentially the corner of two significant faults, one being the Lornex fault, which hosts the mineralization for the Highland Valley pits, and then the east-west fault that goes from Spencer's Bridge all the way east, that goes right through our property towards New Afton, all the way to Copper Mountain. And so we're essentially the corner lot of two well-known copper-bearing anomaly or copper-bearing units, and that's largely unexplored. So we had targets that, as part of the ZTEM survey, that we really wanted to focus on, that being the WP, the MARB 72, the MARB zone, the Eric zone, and the Titan Queen zone. We followed that with a soil anomaly testing, and this was done. So the soil geochemistry testing was done over the WP zone and the MARB zone. And the reason, again, is the more data points you get, the more accurate you're going to be when it comes to getting information and targets. Now, what you will see here is you will see that 14% of the soil samples were in the 90th percentile of soil samples and 97th percentile of soil samples in British Columbia. Now, what's very important here is that a lot of the material over our site 10,000 years ago was moved during the glacier. So to get grades that high is very, very significant. And there's, we're getting these isotopic soil test or results coming from soil samples that are really, not necessarily comparable to soil results where soil has been in situ for tens and tens and thousands of years. This is something where the glacial really moved the material in the past 10,000 years. So this is something that is really, really exciting. and is going to generate targets. And we're going to continue doing more soil testing. A real game changer last year was the receipt of the Mayab, or the multi-year permit, in November of 2022. Now, one of the things that we discussed as a company, and so we were very confident of two things. One, we were very confident in our ability to generate cash flow. The second is we were very confident in our ability to have a very successful drill program. Now, as most companies, as most investors are familiar, a typical junior mining company, what they will do is they will go out and they will put together a drill program. They'll raise capital for that drill program and hope, subject to it being successful, they'll raise capital again for a program the following year. We kind of took a different stance, that we felt that, and we're very confident that we would be very successful. So in 2020, so this is 3 years ago, we started the process because it takes 2 years to get a multi-year permit. So in 2020, we did an application that essentially gave us carte blanche over a very large area of the property and allowed us to conduct drilling up until November of 2027 without having to do applications. So the permit we received allows for geological surveys with respect to electrodes, but we have the ability to do 190 drill holes and 12 kilometers of trenching. And if you look at the icon in the corner, which says, and I'm reading here, on November 19th, 2015, Nicola acquired all outstanding shares of the Craigmont project to become its sole owner. And I really highlight the importance of this because one of the questions that investors often ask and should ask is, why does this opportunity exist? Because often in exploration, you'll see projects change hands multiple times. And this is very, very unique in that after the historic Craigmont closed in 1982, it closed with the intention of reopening in the future. That said, MBO, or leverage buyout. So it was actually the first mining leverage buyout or management buyout in the history of British Columbia, where management acquired the assets from Placer Dome. When they acquired the assets, they specifically had the intention of mining the magnetite, which was in the historic tailings, rather than necessarily doing exploration on the copper. So they extracted the magnetite from the historic tailings up until 2014. And so you had multiple owners. And as we know that, companies are best run under good leadership. And sometimes that, requires one or two good leaders versus having several shareholders benefiting from extraction of material that's already in tailings. And it wasn't until, again, in November of 2015 that you had one owner. So in 2016, that's when Nicola really started exploring. And, I remember in September of 2016, our second drill hole, which that we executed on the property, we had 85 meters, 85.6 meters of 1.11% copper. So we've had multiple intercepts, including, over 100 meters of over 1% copper. So the grades are there, and the potential of the project is very, very significant. And it's hard to believe that the project is actually pretty underexplored. And, we started the drill program, which I mentioned earlier. We announced that our drill program for 2023, and 2023 has proved to be incredibly exciting because what you see on the left here is you see chalcopyrite with moly. So we don't have the grades from this core yet, but this is on our website as well. Why is this significant? Because this is very indicative of all the porphyry mineral deposits in the Highland Valley deposit in the Guichon. So this core sample is not from the Nicola unit, which hosted the historic Craigmont mine. This is from the Guichon side of our property, where you see that there's moly as well as chalcopyrite. And this has never been because there was never drilling done on that side of the property or that side of the 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 batholith, this was something that was we anticipated, we were hoping to see, and that's exactly what we saw in our drill core this year. And the significance of Moly and K-spar alteration is also something that is being examined in with the University of British Columbia, which we also have a working partnership with. We then signed a letter of intent with Nitetsu Mining. Nitetsu Mining, under the letter of intent, will, subject to moving to the definitive agreement, which we're working on now, Nitetsu will invest $25 million to secure 40% right for the offtake of the copper at market price. Now, this is not your typical streaming agreement or your typical agreement that you often see in mining where uh, groups will be able to purchase certain metal streams at a discount. They're paying full price for this. And this is their first investment in North America, and we've been working very closely with them since spring of this year. So we're very excited about this. This, again, it has a twofold effect in that they're bringing in their expertise along with our experts. So the more people you have on property, the more brains you have, the more opportunity or potential of success. But it also mitigates the requirement of us to go out and raise capital to do the exploration, even though we're already cash flow positive. So we're able to do exploration as we're accumulating cash, and that may bring up other opportunities, including looking at doing exploration at Treasure Mountain. And Treasure Mountain has some very, very exciting exploration opportunity. If we had samples on the backside of the mountain that we had 7,270 grams silver at surface, and that really warrants exploration, so that the cash flow that we have from our um, revenue streams for our operations will be able to fund those the exploration on Treasure Mountain. And you can see, again, operationally, our execution has been reflected. You can see it in our income. You can see it in our cash and receivables. You can see a company that doesn't really look like a junior mining company. It looks like, a small producer, and you can see that also reflected in our daily share price or closing share price. So over the past year, we've accomplished a lot. It's been a very tough market. And in conclusion, I'll just say before we start the question section, we are a junior mining company that has operational cash flow. We have 3 permits, full permits, permit on our copper asset, a permit, fully permitted silver mine, a fully permitted mill. We have a $25 million letter of intent with Nitetsu Mining. We're going to do a very robust exploration program on our copper through over the next 5 years. And that's all. And so I just would like to thank you for your time. And if there are any questions, I know I went 3 minutes over or 4 minutes over the allotted time, but happy to field any questions. Thank you. So one of the questions is, are there any current agreements with Teck with regards to new Craigmont tailings? Now, um, just to be clear here, so we have the historic waste dumps and the tailings. The historic tailings where the magnetite was extracted is completed. So when it comes to um, the historic mine dumps and our current exploration, the answer is we do not have an agreement with Teck. And I think it's what's really exciting about the agreement with the LOI with Nitetsu and the the exploration that we've done to this date is the fact that, yeah, Tech is certainly a group that we would be willing to discuss with, but it's not needed. And so the fact that you have a Nitetsu who really is interested in the offtake, because remember they're affiliated with Nippon Steel, which is the largest steel manufacturer in Japan. They have their own smelters. So the fact that you have other groups on a global groups interested in the project because they're interested in the offtake is something that's very exciting. Another question is that when do we expect the results of the drill program? So we expect those results to come out in October. We were hoping to get them out in September, but the last two holes were submitted about 3 weeks ago, and the labs are quite busy right now. So we we haven't received that back. But once we receive them, we'll publish the results immediately. What question is, can you share revenue from your gold production in 23 and project? So I think you see we did show some of the projection, like some of the our revenues from 2023. 2024, because we haven't been in production long enough. So this is something, it's difficult to understand whether or not, for example, Blue Lagoon gets its permits or other groups that we're negotiating with right now get their permits. So I prefer not to project on revenues for next year, other than the fact that we'll continue to have operating revenues and we expect to continue to be cash flow positive. Are you contemplating production of concentrate of Nutetsu using the current mill capacity? So that's a very good question. So the question is, are we going to use the current mill capacity or are we going to increase the capacity of the mill? And if you go to the website, one of the things you can see with the mill is that mill, given the size, was really constructed for exploration. Exploration expansion. And so the mill itself is easily expandable. So the bottleneck is the ball mill. And so our crushing capacity from our primary crushing and our secondary crushing and our flotation tanks is 2 to 3 times that of our ball mill. So that's something, if we wanted to look at expanding, all we would have to do is replace the ball mill. We're actually looking at that opportunity, that opportunity right now. But right, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. Like, it's very important to, one of the things that when people think of expansion, like until you have that need, there's no point in utilizing expenses to do the expansion up until that point. So we will expand if needed to, but right now our current mill sizes suffice. I don't see any other questions. So thank you everyone for attending, and I encourage you, this was really the presentation focused on the execution over the past 12 months and the milestones that were achieved. But I really encourage you to look at the website, look at the assets, and then look at the management's background, and then you'll get a better understanding of the potential that we have and the team that we have in situ to unlock the true value of these assets, which is a very exciting opportunity. Thank you.